hauling my truck in here. I think they finally caught up to me. But, you know, I was down at Boca Raton Community Hospital, and I was speaking to some doctors down there. And I hate being separated from you. But the doctors wanted to talk a little bit, a bit too long. But, you know, when you come here, and thanks, Joyce, for introducing me, it's always hard to follow Joyce Coffman, okay? She makes a living out of talking, so, you know, I'll be because Joyce is the voice crying out in the wilderness for each and every one of us. So yes. Absolutely thank you. We honor you. Up here, you always have something in the back of your mind that you want to talk about to everyone. But then something happens and it changes everything that you want to say. You know, the last time I was here, I talked about Sun Tzu's maxim when it said to know your enemy and to know yourself and to know the environment and countless amounts of battles, you will always be victorious. And last time I was here, I talked about the enemy. I talked about the history of Islam. I talked about that which we face, so that everyone can really understand. So I don't think we need to go back and talk about, you know, Muhammad or talk about the history of Islam. I think the most important thing we need to talk about is us. Yes. What we stand for and what we believe in. Because as I was driving up here today, I saw that bumper sticker that absolutely incenses me. It's not the Obama sticker. But it's the bumper sticker that says, coexist. And it has all the little religious symbols on it. And the reason why I get upset, every time I see one of those bumper stickers, I look at the person inside that's driving. Because that person represents something that would give away our country. Would give away who we are, our rights and freedoms and liberties, because they're afraid to stand up and confront that which is the antithesis, anathema to who we are, the liberties that we enjoy. So the thing I want to just share with you tonight is a failure of leadership. Because as Joyce talked about today, and I'm going to be very honest because I'm this old dumb paratrooper from Georgia, how the hell is it that a person that will refuse to stand in front of his own constituents that you can entrust to go to Washington, D.C. and represent you, that you can entrust to go up and face this enemy and say, I'm not allowing that to happen in my country, that you could entrust this person to be on the exact same anti-Semitic task force as a Muslim congressman that took an oath upon the Quran, that went to the Hajj, stood there and listened to cleric talk about how Islam will rule the world and destroy Western civilization. How can you allow that to happen? How can we gotten so devoid of leadership in this country where after what happened in Fort Hood, Texas, the Chief of Staff of the United States Army could go on the show with George Stephanopoulos and say he was more so concerned about diversity being a casualty than the fact that he had lost 13 soldiers, and 14 when you consider the fact that one of those soldiers was pregnant. How can we have leadership that will turn to young men and women in a combat zone and tell them that you can't do anything until the enemy shoots at you? We can't have night operations. We have to let the enemy know when we're coming into an area. You know, I was getting some back channel emails from Marines that were there doing that operation in Margin. The enemy, when they were pressured, would lay down their weapons and come out and taunt our soldiers and then walk away to fight again another day. And because of the rules of engagement that our leadership has placed on the soldiers, they're going to have to fight those individuals again. How did we become so lost from that great speech that General Patton gave before he took the Third Army across Europe, to the point where right now We have a two-star Army general that is prosecuting three United States Navy SEALs because they punched the guy in the stomach. How can we survive when we have leadership that says that the constitutional rights that are promised and guaranteed to each and every American citizen are so worthless that we will give them to an illegal enemy combatant, a person that tried to kill Americans on an airplane, or a person that planned the 9/11 attacks? See, no matter what the enemy does, we have got to have people that will stand up, confront this enemy, and say what it is. Now, I don't know if we got some Ron Klein supporters here that are, trying to take me, or if we have some people that want to try to bring something against me later on. If so, please come up to the front, because I want you to clearly hear what I have to say. I am not afraid of saying that if we do not have leadership in this country that understands that there is a fifth column that is already infiltrating into our colleges, into our universities, into our high schools, into our religious aspect, our cultural aspect, our financial, and our political systems in this country. That enemy represents something called Islam. Islam is a totalitarian, theocratic political ideology. It is not a religion. It has not been a religion since 622 AD, and we need to have individuals stand up and say that. I was sitting on a panel in New York back on the 13th of January, and on that panel, retired chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Myers, and a young former Marine who's a blogger now came up and asked one simple question. Basically, he asked, who are we fighting against? And General Myers, well, first of all, Andrew McCarthy, a lawyer, said that he was going to plead the fifth, and he laughed about it. And General Myers gave some very weak answer about when hopefully rational voices will prevail. How can we have people like that who call themselves leaders in this country? And it's funny that that simple response that I gave was captured on YouTube, and now it's being translated in 7 different languages. All because people are looking for principled leaders and courageous individuals that will stand up and will protect the American people from this very vile and very vicious enemy that we have allowed to come into our country because we ride around with bumper stickers that say coexist. That will turn around and look at me and say I'm an Islamophobe, I'm a xenophobe. But let me tell you something. There are 3 of my former Afghan interpreters that have green cards that are living in the United States of America right now because they came to me and they said they wanted to one day live in this great country. And the one thing I said to them, here's a copy of the United States Constitution. You go and study this Constitution, you understand this Constitution, and when you tell me that you believe in the precepts and the concepts that are there, and that you understand that it supersedes this thing that you have come to call your religion, and that you will have an oath to defend this Constitution when you become an American citizen, then I will write a letter of recommendation for you to be a fellow American. And they did. And one of them brought his family. They live in Buffalo, New York. So I reject being called an Islamophobe. I reject being called a xenophobe because I do want to coexist. But I want to coexist being proud of who I am as an American, being proud of that upon which we live, this flag, our laws, our traditions, our cultures. As I said before, I will not be subject to anything but the United States Constitution. Yeah.